Good morning. This is Muhammad Suleiman, Assistant Professor of Commerce, working at MVS Government Degree College, Autonomous, Mahbub Nagar. Today, let us learn about official liquidator. As all of us know, that the winding up process of a company shall be completed by realizing the assets of the company and paying the debts of the company. Therefore, there is a requirement of one officer who can complete this activity and who is appointed for the purpose of liquidation of the company. Therefore, it becomes important to learn about official liquidator. Today, let us learn about official liquidator and the objectives of the lesson are as follows. So, we will be learning the introduction part to the official liquidator, then we will be seeing the meaning of the position official liquidator. Then we'll be learning who is a provisional liquidator, and we'll be learning about statement of affairs, and we'll be learning about duties of the liquidator and powers of the liquidator, supervision and control over liquidators, and committee of inspection and general powers of the tribunal. So let us move on and learn all these concepts one by one. As all of us know that the company winding up can be done in two types, that is one compulsorily winding up by the tribunal and another one is voluntary winding up. So once the order of winding up of a company is issued and the person who is responsible for the purpose of completing the proceedings of winding up of the company is called liquidator. So he is nothing but the official liquidator. So by virtue of his office becomes the liquidator of the company which is under liquidation. So no other person can be appointed for the purpose of liquidating the company except official liquidator. So every company which is in the process of winding up shall have one official liquidator appointed by the central government, and the assets of the company will be realized and the debts will be paid off by realizing the assets, and the payment of various stakeholders will also be completed by the official liquidator. Therefore, in the process of winding up of the company, the proceedings that are to be completed right from the beginning of handing over of the records till the uh, name of the company is deleted from the register of companies, the role of official liquidator becomes important here. So now let us move on and see who is an official liquidator. So we may have a doubt whether any person can be appointed as official liquidator for a company or who can be appointed as official liquidator of a company. So for the purpose of winding up of a company, the tribunal may take up the task of appointing an official liquidator from a panel of professional firms like company secretaries, chartered accountants, advocates, costs and work accountants, or some firms may be having a combination of all these are some of these professions. Like a professional firm may have a combination of a company secretary as well as a chartered accountant, or a practicing chartered accountant firm may have a combination of a chartered accountant as well as a cost and works accountant. So in such a case, the tribunal may choose to appoint a professional firm to be an official liquidator having background of chartered accountancy or company secretaryship or advocate or a group of or some of these professions. So a body corporate consisting of such professionals may be approved by the central government to be appointed as the official liquidator. And while verifying the background of the professional firm, some sort of experience is required. So normally at least 10 years of experience related to company matters is essential for a firm seeking to be appointed as an official liquidator. And while verifying the eligibility of various professional firms to be appointed as official liquidator for a company, all eligibility conditions will be verified, and the experience of minimum 10 years in the area of company matters will be observed. And the terms and conditions for the appointment of official liquidator and the remuneration payable to the official liquidator or the firm will be specified by the tribunal itself. It depends upon the size of the company, the tasks that are to be performed, and the quantum of assets that are to be realized, and the number of payments that are supposed to be made. All these things will be taken into consideration before fixing the remuneration of the official liquidator. Sometimes a provisional liquidator is appointed by the tribunal by limiting his powers and therefore by ordering him to work as official liquidator subsequently. So the term official liquidator and provisional liquidator have some difference in the nature of powers and the duties that they are going to perform. On appointment as provisional liquidator, or sometimes called as company liquidator, such person is required to file a declaration within 7 days from the receipt of his appointment in the prescribed format, disclosing his conflict of interest, saying that he has no interest in the company affairs wherein he is acting as the official liquidator. Therefore, the terms and conditions for the appointment of official liquidator and the remuneration payable to him shall be specified by the tribunal, and in addition to other official formalities that are supposed to be followed. So this is regarding the appointment of official liquidator. Now let us see something about provisional liquidator. So provisional liquidator is nothing but the liquidator who is appointed provisionally by the tribunal, and on appointment as provisional liquidator, he shall file a declaration within 7 days, disclosing the conflict of interest. As discussed earlier, he is supposed to disclose the conflict of interest that he has in the functioning or liquidation of the company. And the liquidator shall conduct the proceedings of winding up the company and shall perform the duties as fixed by the tribunal according to section 275. So section 275 of the Companies Act lays down the duties that are to be performed by the provisional liquidator. So the official liquidator, when appointed, gets his remuneration from the central government, and as such he is not entitled for any further remuneration. And in addition to this, it is important to mention here that for the services that the liquidator has rendered as a liquidator to the company, the central government shall be paid out of the assets such as the fees, etc., to the official liquidator. So, on appointment as a liquidator of a company, he is supposed to follow the code of conduct, and his work will be monitored, and if it is found or detected that his appointment or qualification is not in accordance with the provisions, that is detected at a later stage, his work and all the activities shall not be valid, and his appointment may be terminated at any time. Therefore, provisional liquidator is supposed to file a declaration within 7 days disclosing the conflict of interest in the nature of work that he is going to accept there. Now, let us move further and see regarding the statement of affairs. So, once the winding up order of the company is issued and the official liquidator is appointed, a statement as to the affairs of the company must be prepared and submitted to the official liquidator. And naturally, it is expected that it is given in the prescribed format and verified by an affidavit. So, in other words, the statement must contain all the relevant particulars regarding the company. For example, the assets of the company stating separately regarding the cash and cash in hand, like cash at bank, and any negotiable instruments that are held by the company, and so on. And regarding the dues, the debts of the company and liabilities of the company shall also be mentioned. And while coming to the details of the creditors, their names and addresses and occupations, and regarding insecured debts, the details of the debts and particulars shall be mentioned, and the date from which those amounts are due shall also be disclosed, and all other information that is relevant to the liquidation of the company shall be intimated within 21 days. Within 21 days from the date of appointment of the provisional liquidator. So the period may be extended if the number of transactions or the details are more, and such extension can be given by the official liquidator or the tribunal, but not exceeding the period of 90 days, that is 3 months. So the statement of affairs is naturally to be given by the directors, the manager and secretary, or the chief officer of the company whenever it is demanded by the official liquidator. Naturally, it is submitted within 21 days, that's in the due time. If such extension is given, it shall be with the proper permission that is given by the official liquidator or the tribunal. So, once the statement of affairs is received by the official liquidator, he will get an idea about the position of the company, the assets of the company, the cash and bank balances position in the company, and the negotiable instruments that are held by the company on one side, and the payments due by the company to the outside parties like debt and liability and other things will be known, so that the liquidator will get an idea about the work that he has to complete. Therefore, the statement of affairs is an important statement which will provide some idea to the official liquidator for completing his job. So, therefore, statement of affairs is normally expected as soon as the appointment of official liquidator is completed. So once official liquidator receives the statement of affairs, he will start his work. Now let us see the duties of official liquidator. There are various duties that an official liquidator is supposed to perform, but an attempt has been made to list out various important duties that he has to complete. First one is submission of report by company liquidator, and to take over company's assets, to comply with the directions, to summon meetings of creditors and contributories, to keep proper books, to submit accounts, and appointment of a committee of inspection, and to submit information in pending liquidation, and making payments into the public accounts of India. So let us learn a bit detail position of the duties of the official liquidator. So the primary duty of an official liquidator is to work according to the provisions of the Act and finish the proceedings of the winding up of the company for which he is appointed. He shall perform all such duties naturally which are imposed by the tribunal on him. And first and foremost duty is submission of report by the company liquidator. So once the tribunal issues winding up order of a company, the official liquidator within 60 days from the order shall submit to the tribunal a report containing various details of the company. For example, the details of the assets of the company, including the cash position and bank balance position, and details and specifications of their assets, and location and value of the assets, and any negotiable instruments held by the company. For example, the company may have a large number of assets, and the liquidator is facing some difficulties in valuing the assets of the company. So in such a case, he may take the help of registered asset valuers for this purpose. So he can request the valuers to arrive at the valuation of the assets held by the company by identifying their locations. A company may have 2 or 3 plants, a company may have 10 plants. So the official liquidator is supposed to get valuations of all these assets situated at various locations and details of the assets. So once the registered valuers start working, they will provide with the valuation of the assets of various locations, and the amount will be mentioned in the valuation reports so that the liquidator can communicate the same to the tribunal. So this is regarding the nature of assets and value of the assets. Then one more important item that he will mention in the report is the amount of capital issued, subscribed, and paid up. As these three are totally different, the official liquidator is supposed to submit a report, detailed report on all these things. What is the capital that is issued by the company in the market, and what is the portion of the capital subscribed. So sometimes it may happen that a company issues 10 lakhs shares, but subscription is done only for 8 lakhs, let us assume. So in such a case, the issued capital is different and subscribed capital is different. And after the subscription is made, what is the paid up capital? So fully paid up capital sometimes may be different from the subscribed capital. So in this case, if we see subscribed capital may be something around 7 lakhs 50,000 shares. So in such a case, we can understand that the issued capital is different, subscribed capital is different, and paid up capital is different. So all these things shall be considered and noted in the report by the company liquidator. And on the other hand, he shall give details of the liabilities of the company, including contingent liabilities, and the names, address, and occupations of the creditors of the company to be given, and a statement showing the details of secured debts and unsecured debts raised by the company to be given, and the date on which the debts were raised by the company shall also be noted, because it will be important for calculating the interest or making prioritized payment in case of shortage of funds. And in some situations, it may be possible that there may be some debts that are due to the company, where the company is supposed to collect the debts in the form of advances and loans given to some other person. So therefore, the debts due to the company and the name and address and occupation of the persons from whom the amount is likely to be collected shall also be given, because it will be an amount that will be realized by the company. And a detailed statement of guarantees extended by the company if it is provided, and the list of contributories and dues, and details of any amount that is to be collected, and details of various intellectual properties that are held by the company, like trademarks and any other things like patents or copyrights, because these will be rated under the category of assets of the company. Therefore, it is important to note down the details of some intellectual properties and trademarks also. And in some cases, the company may be working in association with different companies in the form of joint ventures and in the form of collaborations, whether at national level or international level, it may be possible. Therefore, the statement shall contain the details regarding the joint ventures and collaborations signed with various companies at the national level and international level, and details of any holding and subsidiary companies, if any. So there may be some possibility of acquiring a small company in the form of a subsidiary. So in such a case, the details of the subsidiary company, the number of shares that are held by the subsidiary, and the minority interest that is there regarding the subsidiary company shall also be mentioned. And one more detail that shall be reported in the report given by the liquidator is regarding legal cases filed by the company or legal cases filed against the company in the court of law. There may be a possibility that company might have filed legal cases against different persons or companies in order to protect their rights. say for example, in order to protect their intellectual property or trademarks, in case of infringement, the company may have filed some legal suit against a different company or against different persons. And in some cases, on the other extreme, there may be some cases filed by different people against the company also, in case of dissatisfied customers, or in case of customers who are at a loss due to the products sold by the company, or due to the actions taken by the company. There may be some aggrieved persons who may approach the court of law for the purpose of getting justice. Therefore, in such a case, there may be some cases that are filed against the company also. So, in such a case, the details of legal cases filed by the company and filed against the company shall also be mentioned in the report. So, apart from this, if any other information is available that is considered to be relevant to the process of liquidation of the company, shall also be mentioned in detail. So, a detailed report of all these things, of all these activities, shall be submitted by the liquidator, and he shall submit all these things to the tribunal. So this is the main duty of the liquidator, that is submission of report to the tribunal. So in addition to this, he has different duties like to take over the company's assets. So once the order of winding up of a company is issued, the liquidator is supposed to take into custody the various properties and actionable claims of the company which are owned by the company, so that it can be realized at a later date and the amount can be collected from that. So I repeat again, on passing of the order of winding up by the tribunal, the company's assets are to be treated as being in the custody of the tribunal, and the official liquidator is supposed to take over the company's assets for the purpose of realization. And in case if the liquidator is finding it difficult to take the assets of the company into custody, the official liquidator can approach for help and assistance from the district magistrate to obtain the possession of various assets, books, papers and properties of the company. And it may be noted here that the official liquidator is just the custodian of the assets but not the owner of the assets of the company. So he is supposed to take all these assets into custody and act according to the instructions given by the tribunal for the purpose of liquidating the assets. Therefore, the liquidator is treated as trustee of the company's property for the creditors. And one more duty that the liquidator has is to comply with the directions. So the liquidator is supposed to follow the directions given by the creditors and contributories, or sometimes by the committee of inspection. So any directors give any directions given by the creditors or contributors at the general meetings shall be deemed to be override on account of the directions given by the committee of inspection in case of conflict. So let us assume the creditors have given one direction and the committee of inspection has given some other direction. So now the liquidator is in dilemma which one to follow and which one to not. So in case of conflict of directions between given by the creditors and the committee of inspection, so it is expected or it is treated that the directions given by the committee of inspection will override the directions given by the creditors. Therefore, the liquidator is supposed to follow the directions given by the committee of inspections. Then one more duty of the liquidator is to summon meetings of creditors and contributors. So this is also important for him. So the regulator may summon for a general meeting of creditors or contributors whenever he thinks fit for the purpose of ascertaining the wishes, ideas, and taking the feedback and suggestions of various creditors and contributors. So he shall give a proper notice of the meeting that is to be conducted for the creditors and contributors, and by resolution direct or whenever requested in writing, he may conduct such meeting in order to know the ideas and opinions of the creditors and contributors as the case may be. Therefore, one important duty on his part is to summon meetings of creditors and contributors. And another duty that he has is to keep proper books. So the regulator must and should maintain proper books and make entries or record the minutes of all the meetings and proceedings that are happening in relation to the winding up of the company. So whenever a meeting is conducted, he should record the minutes of the meetings. So whenever some details are mentioned and discussed, he should record all these details in the books of accounts. Therefore, any creditor or contributory or the tribunal may inspect the books in person or through their authorized agent or representative. So for that purpose, the liquidator is supposed to maintain proper books, and one more duty that he has is to submit accounts. So the liquidator is supposed to submit the accounts at least twice in a year, at least 2 times in a year to the tribunal, mentioning the details of the receipts and payments that he has made in the capacity of liquidator. So the accounts must be in the prescribed form and shall be made in duplicate and properly verified. So before submitting the accounts, you should make entries in duplicate and verify the details properly. And for the purpose of the audit, the liquidator is supposed to furnish details such as relevant information, vouchers, and the books as required by the tribunal, so as to cause an audit for that. So for that purpose, he is supposed to submit the details of accounts properly. So when the accounts have been audited in future, one copy shall be kept in the tribunal and the other copy shall be forwarded to the registrar of companies, because the company is in the process of winding up or the company is in the process of liquidation. And the copy of such an audit is open for inspection to the stakeholders of the company, that is the creditors, contributors, or any person who is interested can verify the copy of the audit report given by the auditor regarding the various receipts and payments that has been completed in one particular financial year. So therefore, the role of liquidator becomes very important here in case of submitting the accounts. And one more important duty of liquidator is appointment of committee of inspection. So this is an important duty wherein the liquidator shall take some action for appointment of committee of inspection with the members of creditors and the other relevant stakeholders who are interested in the functioning of the liquidator, and as given by the tribunal, he shall try to form a committee of inspection where the purpose of forming the committee of inspection is to determining the interest of the members to see the proceedings of the winding up of the company. So normally he will give a notice to convene a meeting of the creditors, and after giving a proper notice to the creditors, he shall convene a meeting and submit the report to the tribunal by incorporating the suggestions and modifications and objections raised by the members of the committee of inspection. So committee of inspection will oversee the process of winding up of the company and will provide their feedback and suggestions. And one more the duty of the official liquidator is to submit information regarding pending liquidation, where the winding up of the company has been taken up, but sometimes it may not be possible for a company to be wound up completely within 1 year time. So therefore, in such a case, when the company is not concluded or when the winding up of the company is not concluded within 1 year of its commencement, the liquidator shall report this fact to the central government and file a statement mentioning the details of the activity that has been completed in the process of liquidation and shall report the pending liquidation. So in such a case, a file or a statement duly audited in respect of the position of liquidation shall be submitted to the central government, and such a report shall be filed in the tribunal in case of winding up, subject to the supervision of the tribunal, and with the registrar in case of voluntary winding up. So in case of voluntary winding up, this report shall reach the registrar, and in case of compulsory winding up, this report shall reach the tribunal and one copy shall go to the registrar of companies. And this statement is open for inspection by the creditors or contributors. So failure to comply with the above provision makes the liquidator liable for a fine that may extend up to rupees 1 lakh or imprisonment of 6 months or both at some times. Therefore, this duty is most important of the duties to be performed by the liquidator, to submit the information regarding the pending liquidation. And one more important duty of the liquidator is to submit to make payments into public accounts of India. So the official liquidator shall pay all money received by him as liquidator of the company into the public account of India in the Reserve Bank of India in such a manner, and the number of times as prescribed may be according to the section 349. So whenever the amount is received, whenever the amount is collected, he shall make a payment of such amount into the public accounts of India that is there in the Reserve Bank of India. So failing this will also attract some punishment to the liquidator. So on a total basis, we can see that the duties of the liquidators are very important, and negligence in performing these duties will make him eligible for getting punishment also, either in the form of a fine or in the form of some punishment like imprisonment. So these are the duties of official liquidator. Now let us move on and see the powers of official liquidator. So the powers of official liquidator are determined by the provisions of the Companies Act, and these statutory powers can be divided into two classes. That is the powers to be exercised within the sanction of the tribunal, and the powers to be exercised without the sanction of the tribunal. And in addition to these two types of powers, he has got some additional powers and duties of liquidator also. So normally you will be exercising the powers that are sanctioned by the tribunal. So the powers that are sanctioned by the tribunal include defending the suits, prosecutions and other legal proceedings in the name of the company and on behalf of the company. However, for continuing or defending a suit already instituted before the process of winding up, no sanction of tribunal is necessary because it is an old case. Therefore, the powers exercised with the sanction of the tribunal are supposed to be followed with the sanction of the tribunal, and the permission of the tribunal is necessary here. And some important powers that the liquidator gets for the purpose of taking up the liquidation activity of the company is to sell the immovable and movable property and external claims of the company by public auction or private contract. This is possible. When a liquidator carries on the business of the company, he does as so the company's agent, and if the power is exercised in a bona fide manner, he will be protected if he has made a mistake. Therefore, he is supposed to carry on the business of the company as far as it is beneficial to the winding up activity or winding up process of the company. And the powers given with the sanction of the tribunal are only with the objective or motto of getting some benefit to the company by the duties that are discharged by the liquidator. Therefore, he is supposed to raise money on security of any asset of the company, which is also one power given by the tribunal, and to sell the whole of the undertaking of the company of a going concern. If he has some undertaking outside, the power for selling is given by the tribunal, and to do all other activities as may be felt necessary to wind up the company and to distribute the assets to various stakeholders. Therefore, he may go up for appointing an advocate, or he may take some action in appointing a leader or attorney entitled to appear before the tribunal to assist him when he is performing his duties. Therefore, the duty of a liquidator is to perform the business and liquidation himself, but he can have some assistants who will help him in performing the duties in a complete and faster manner. Therefore, the powers to be exercised with the sanction of the tribunal are to be given by the tribunal only, and apart from these, he has some powers to be exercised without the sanction of the tribunal also. Sometimes there may be some powers which do not require the sanction of the tribunal for their exercise. For example, to inspect the records and returns of the company. So, as an official liquidator, naturally he is given powers to inspect the records of the company. So, for that purpose, he does not need any sanction of the tribunal, or he is not required to ask any permission. And to prove rank and claim in the insolvency of any contributory and to receive dividend out of his property or estate, because this is an activity taken up in the interest of the company. This does not require the sanction of the tribunal. And to do all activities and execute in the name of the company all deeds, receipts and documents which are required for the purpose of liquidation. So for this reason also he does not need any permission, and to appoint agents wherever necessary to assist the work of the liquidation and perfectly finish the work of liquidation. So therefore, to draw, accept and endorse the bills of exchange in the name and on behalf of the company also, he does not require any power that is to be given by the tribunal. So all these works or activities are in the interest of the liquidation of the company. Then apart from these two, there may be some additional powers and duties of the liquidator also. So wherein he may appoint security guards, valuers, or surveyors, or chartered accountants for the purpose of taking up the liquidation of the company. And in some cases, he may give advertisement for sale of assets, and he may give notice to submit or verify a statement of affairs of the company. So all these things do not require the power of the sanction of the tribunal. So therefore, the powers of the liquidators are wide, and some require sanction of the tribunal, and some does not require sanction of the tribunal. So there will be supervision and control over the liquidators normally by the contributors and creditors, and control by the tribunal regularly, and supervision by committee of inspection, and some sort of control by central government also. So committee of inspection. The committee of inspection is appointed with the creditors as its members as discussed earlier. So the tribunal may direct to appoint a committee of inspection to act with the liquidator, and the liquidator shall within 2 months convene a meeting of creditors to ascertain who are the members of the committee and form the committee of inspection. Then the general powers of tribunal are also given. Power to stay winding up proceedings of the company, and settlement of the list of contributors and application of assets, and delivery of property to the liquidator, and power to order payment of debts and allow set off, power to make calls, and power of tribunal to make calls and adjustment of rights of contributors, power to costs, and power to summon persons suspecting of having the property of the company sometimes, and power to order public examination of promoters and directors is also possible. That is one of the general powers of the tribunal. So this is how the duties of official liquidators will proceed for the purpose of completing the winding up of the company. Thank you.